Welcome to the ISIS Papers, Chapter 17, The Symbolism of Boxing and Black Leather. So before I jump into it, I kind of want to get people's thoughts on the chapter. If you didn't read the chapter, that's totally fine. Just give me your thoughts on boxing. Like, what do you think of boxing? What does it represent to you? Um, so for me, this chapter just really taught me that, like most sports, if not all, sports are definitely games that symbolically represent the superiority or inferiority of the races. So, for example, when people are boxing, the audience and individuals are definitely watching and waiting to see which boxer is going to win, but also they're rooting for the boxer of their own race. For example, if you're black, you're more than likely to root for a black boxer. And you see this sport as a battle of the genes. And as we do the chapter analysis and discussion, we'll be able to symbolically see how even the boxing gloves themselves represent male genitals and how the body extended outwards represents the penis, and how the ring symbolizes and represents the vagina or orifices, and just how this is just another sport that exists to calm white minds or cause it a lot of fear, considering what happens when black men obliterate white men in the boxing ring.
For me, reading this chapter 17, it definitely opened my eyes because I never saw boxing in this way. I highly respect Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, but I'll say that this is the chapter where I also was like, But by the end, I was convinced. I do understand exactly where it draws from. I saw the connection and relationship between leather, the wearing of animal and natural materials on the physical body, like what that means to in the European mindset, and how we've been like forced mentally to also associate ourselves with like with that type of logic. So yeah, that's I'll say one of my main draws of this chapter, as well as the buffalo, the breaking down of Buffalo Soldier, and the breaking down of what a Buffalo Soldier is, because I grew up listening to Bob Marley's music, and I always heard that connection of Buffalo Soldier, but having this breakdown and getting this context into it literally allowed me to see the history behind and the magnitude of what it means when with that term Buffalo Soldier, which I can't wait for us to get into and break down further and furthermore.
I haven't read the chapter. I just started reading it, but the first few pages was just about the sport itself. Basically, I would say my opinions on boxing is that it's just like a bullfight. It's not really. There's no spiritual basis. Like if you look at like Brazilian fighting, capoeira, there's like dance and rhythm to it. So there's purposes outside of the actual physical element of fighting, whereas boxing is just about, in my opinion, about just trying to um overthrow someone. I don't hear anything.
Tell me about dominance again. If you want to share.
You know, I have something to comment about boxing and how in slavery they had fighting Negroes, like in Django, how they had them fighting each other.
The Mandingo fighters, yep.
Yeah, yes,
The
that
Mandingo.
movie Mandingo. You know, and how the winner was given some few special dispensations, a little extra money, maybe a little soda pop or a little something extra, uh, and how they wanted so desperately to win and to please the master, not only for survival reasons, but so that the master would be happy with them and so that they could receive monies. And I look at Floyd, like for example, Floyd Mayweather, who's the highest paid boxer in the history of fighting, and how unfortunate this is a perfect. He spends his money on random extravagance, obscene, obsessive, excessive extravagance. Nothing to uplift himself, his family, nothing. So and so what that does is take two superior human beings because they're melanated, dehumanize them, emasculate them, and pay them obscene amounts of money to continue to perpetuate the myth of white supremacy. And they do it with perfection. They do it with tact. There was one scene where they showed 50 Cent and Floyd Mayweather talking to each other on the phone, pretending to be talking to each other on the phone, and they're using wads of money as the telephone. You know, and it's just another, another technique in psychological warfare, using boxing to dehumanize us. I could say more about that, but sure.
I agree. That's totally true. I haven't seen the ad you're talking about, but it sounds about accurate. 50 Cent is definitely a suspicious character as well as Floyd Mayweather. Um, I wanted to start off by reading on page 209, the first paragraph. I think this really encapsulates what the chapter is going to be about, and also gives us insight to the importance of understanding these symbols and what they mean, and how these things give us so much insight to how white supremacy operates and how white supremacy sustains itself. So, the global practice of white supremacy encompasses all patterns of symbol, logic, thought, speech, action, and emotional response in all areas of people activity. For those self-defined individually or collectively as white. Therefore, the system of global white supremacy can be most readily understood as a survival system, a system based upon the facts of the global white numerical minority status, white genetic recessiveness, and white genetic vulnerability. It is also important to comprehend that it is a fear system, a system that is consciously or unconsciously aware of its genetic vulnerability and fearful of its genetic annihilation. System of fear, y'all. This is why they try to make black people live in fear. Constant videos of black people in jail, constant videos of black people being killed by police officers. Threats by the NAACP saying that they're going to kill black children and black men as initiation rituals. So many fear tactics. I would even argue that the global black majority, like the majority of black people in America and in Africa and everywhere in parts of the world live in a state of fear. That fear could be derived from the understanding of white supremacy as a monstrous system. And even if black people are unaware of white supremacy and its actual definitive ways and how it operates, they do have a subconscious or conscious understanding that something is off and that they have a reason to be scared. And that can be seen, that can be found in the media. Like I said earlier, how Black people are murdered and it's put on television and normalized. And also the fact that it's just, I'm losing my train of thought, but yeah, this right here just showing me it's a fear-based system. We live in fear, and oh yeah, all the Black leaders, you know, like Fred Hampton and Malcolm X, Medgar Evans, Martin Luther King Jr., all these people who became notable and became loved and respected and admired by Black people were murdered. And then this right here also instilled a lot of fear in the Black population, and it also demoralized the Black population and demoralized the efforts for liberation and demoralized the future efforts for liberation, because these Black people literally saw their hope killed, murdered. So like I understand why we're living how we're living now. It's just that the battle, we lost a few battles and we gave up, you know. But this is not a battle versus battle. This is a war, and you can lose a few battles and still win the war. Um,
Totally agree.
and I do want to read the second. I think I need to read this, yeah, just to give more context. Adonish, do you have the book with you?
Yeah, I've got the digital copy. I'm on my phone reading it.
All right. Can you read the second paragraph on the first page, please?
Say that again.
Can you,
Say that again.
can you read the second paragraph on the first page? On page 209.
Okay. The global practice of white supremacy,
Second paragraph.
Like the symbols discussed.
like the symbol discussed in preceding chapters, the sport of boxing in white supremacy system and culture is yet another instance of specific behavioral and objective symbolism that manifests the collective white concern of its genetic vulnerability. Much of the motivation to write this essay came from the heavyweight boxing champion fight between Larry Holmes and the undefeated Black champion Gergie Cooney. The #1 white contender and the subsequent loser, race was the major and overriding concern in its contest. With Cooney portrayed as the white hope, and the real fight took place with the atmosphere created the series of Rocky movies. In these fantasies, Sylvester Stallone plays the white fighter in red, white, and blue trunks, who always victorious over his Black challenger.
Thank you so much. Um, I've never seen Rocky, but I was talking to my mom today, and she even talked about how Rocky even beat up Mr. T, and I was like, wow, I had not knew that Mr. T was in Rocky. So Rocky is racist propaganda. It's a film that shows something that's literally impossible. Like no white boxer can become victorious by beating up Black boxers. It's never been proven. The last boxer to consecutively beat 2 Black boxers in a row was, I think, what was his name? I think his name was Tom Cribb. Yeah, I think it was Tom Cribb, and that was in the 17th century. So I don't think that's gonna happen ever again. But yeah, boxing is a race sport. It is very, very obvious. That's why they created an entire film to show the genetics of white people being superior over Black people in the ring. And remember, the ring symbolically does represent the vaginal orifices. Um, oh yeah, is there anyone want to add? Has anyone seen Rocky? Yeah. Have anyone seen Rocky?
I haven't seen Rocky, but I most definitely am aware of it. It's everywhere. Whether you've seen it or not, you hear about it. It's in adverts. It's one of their proudest works. So you get to know about it. Most definitely.
So he was a poor Italian from the hood. They couldn't even talk, couldn't even complete a sentence, really. Poorly, all that New York stuff, right? And he had no shot. He wasn't even a contender in the boxing world. He wasn't high powered. He was a nobody. And somebody convinced him that he could get back into the game. They needed a great white hope. They were looking for a great white hope. And so they built this guy up and did all the hype. It was a series, and they satirized it. There's a movie starring Sam Jackson called Great White Hope, I think it's called. Oh, Great White Hype. The Great White Hype. Check that one out.
It's a hilarious film. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
I need to rewatch it actually. The Great White Hype. I'll rewatch that soon actually.
Yeah. And so, it shows him getting his ass whooped, and then at the very end, he wins. Um, and all the black kids, all the black people were like, "Oh, come on, man, this is some bullshit. There's no possible way." They had to create, and it was their attempt to create a white heavyweight boxing champion. They had to do that after dealing with Sonny Liston, Muhammad Ali, Larry Holmes, Joe Frazier, Ken Norton, George Foreman, all these badass black boxers that white boy couldn't even step in the ring. Right? So they were like, this is getting depressing. We got to make a pretend movie to make ourselves feel better.
It's true. I actually think Rocky was a real boxer, a real fighter for a long time.
Well, yeah, the only white boy that ever have the championship was a guy named Rocky Marciano. He beat Joe Louis, but Joe Louis was 40-something years old. So, that's what it was based on, Rocky Marciano, real fighter. You're right, Annalise.
That was even a topic in Coming to America. So that name that you just mentioned, I'm aware of it because of Coming to America. They discussed it, and he was like, he did beat Joe Louis's ass. That's just a famous bar from Coming to America. But if there's any more comments, I'd love to read about the Puggis. I can't pronounce it. Pugism.
Pugilism.
Yes.
Pugilism.
Thank you so much, Ben. Thank you. I've been pugging all day. Pugilism.
Wow.
Thank
Anybody
you.
mentioned how Rocky Balboa? Anybody mentioned Rocky Balboa yet?
That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, we just talked about him. Well, you got something to say?
Yeah, did anyone mention that how he's in he's in the Boxing Hall of Fame and he's not even real? You want to mention that yet?
Wow,
I did not know he was in the Hall of Fame. Wow.
Wow. They created a
This is white supremacy. This is white supremacy. Whatever they want to be real is what's going to be real. And it makes sense why me and Adanish thought that he was real growing up. We have a Madame Tussauds, he's probably there.
Yeah, he's not real. He's in the real Hall of Fame boxer though.
But yeah, this actually is a reflection of like how white supremacy can hide history, put whiteness on it, but something that's fictitious can be glorified to the maximum. And that's what will go down in history unless we make a strong emphasis.
And they made sure in that movie to make sure that the boxer had on red, white, and blue. You know that? and red, white, and blue, you know, Jack and his crew, the red, white, and blue, you know, that's the colors that they were flying when they raped Africa. You know, when they came and took the African, red, white, and blue has always been the colors of, and if you ask a British person, English person, American person, what does that red, white, what do those colors symbolize? They cannot tell you. They won't tell you. But because it symbolizes the blood of the black man. The blue represents black, the red represents blood, and the white obviously represents the white man. The white man's bloodletting of the black man.
Wow.
That's what the red, white, blue stands for. And everything that they have is from the bloodletting of black people.
Wow.
Simple as that.
Yeah. And
This is deep.
yeah, notice how I think Rocky's trunks are blue.
They mentioned that in the reading.
Yeah, I think his trunks are blue, and that's the area. That's all. The trunks are also the area that's covering his genitals. So that could also symbolize blue bloods, meaning like you know how white people say, "Oh, he's a blue blood." How he's so white and pale that I can freaking see the veins coursing through his body, symbolizing that like this person is pure, like the blue blood. They say with pride and shit. And I'm not sure if Rocky was a blue blood. It doesn't matter, but his trunks definitely are like have that blue symbolic color, you know. On page, I want to go right.
Yeah, I was going to read the Pudgeon.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, thank you. But also, I did from what you just talked about in terms of the red, white, and blue. But when we was discussing earlier in our notes, we had noted the fact that what countries have this: Germany, France, England, America, of course, and yeah, all of these countries are patriotic, extremely like white nationalism is the way forward, and Western culture reigns supreme. So yeah, I wanted to read this statement and just to make that reconnection as to like where boxing's origins kind of like comes from, and the fact that if you look back at like we talked about Mandingo fighting and also Gladiator, the gladiators and just that fight, putting people against one another for the sake of seeing who's stronger. Let me just read this. This is an extract from the History of Boxing Encyclopedia Britannica continues. There is evidence that boxing existed in ancient Crete, where a civilization was established by about 1500 BC, centuries before the arrival of the Greeks. Boxing was known as the again. In early days, fighters wore thongs of soft leather bound around their fists, and often 2/3 of the way up their forearms to protect hands and wrists. Beginning in the 4th century BC, harder leather was used for thongs, with the result that they became weapons as well as protection. And finally, late in the history of the Roman Empire, the Greeks adopted the hand covering called cestus or cestus, which was studded with iron and brass nuggets and was used in battles to the death in the Roman arenas. The first Greek fighters were not paid. Glory was the only reward they sought. Later, wealthy men trained their slaves as boxers and had them perform for special entertainments. In the 1st century AD, Romans forced cestus-clad slaves to bludgeon one another to death in the gruesome perversion of sport for the entertainment of crowds who thronged the arenas to see the kill. With the rise of Christianity and the concurrent decline in Roman Empire, pugism as entertainment apparently ceased to exist. At least there is no record of it. Reading this and then making that connection to the Roman Empire and how they used these games to like distract the masses in general, but also putting people against one another for the sake of their own glorification or just to prove a point of whom is strongest. It makes me look at like the lack of necessity of boxing now. Like most people can say that it's getting people off the streets or like it's made them a lot of money, but that's only because white supremacy has made the context of where you get the value of money to be for mainly in areas where you get it the most, so mainly in areas that are derogatory to you, or is a distraction, or is a form of entertainment that distracts the open masses. And yeah, I always look to the connection of like what glory do you get in banging, in distorting someone's face or lasting more rounds, or how who can take a more of a beating. And it's like we've, especially wrestling, we know it to not be really real in that sense, but it's like we now associate pain with entertainment and pleasure and laughter, and I'm just wondering, when are we going to remove these Roman this Roman mentality, this Roman traits from our psyche, as well as yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing. So boxing, the decoding boxing. Thank you so much for giving us that historical foundings of boxing. Now let's do a bit of decoding. Um, on page 213, it says decoding the symbolic behaviors in boxing requires returning in time to ancient Africa, the birthplace of human beings, and more specifically, to the African country called Egypt. In the period antedating the invasions by the white tribes of Europe, the most important Egyptian god was Osiris, referred to as Lord of the Perfect Black, which I interpret as a reference to his skin color. The symbol by which Osiris was known was the black bull called Apis. J.E. Sherlock's Dictionary of Symbols refers to the bull as a historic symbol of white superiority over black. However, this seems to be a conscious or unconscious attempt by Sherlock to reverse the meaning of the bull symbol, since the black bull was a symbol of Osiris, a black god. Thus, in actuality, the bull must represent the opposite, black superiority over white in the psyche of the white collective. So you have white people trying to take like ancient understandings such as what the bull symbolizes. The bull symbolizes like Osiris, a black god, but this white writer tried to rewrite its meaning, saying that it was a symbol of white superiority over over black people, over blackness, and it's just not true. That's why we have bullfighting, because they know it's not true. If it was true, they wouldn't kill the bull during the running of the bulls. They would let the bull live and live happily, because if it's alive, it represents their superiority. But bullfighting, the end goal is always going to leave the bull dead, its horns and its ears cut off, its testicles eaten, because it's a delicacy and it's thought to give power. And I'll just read a bit to on page 213 to just hammer that point in, that bulls do represent the power of black genes, the superiority of black genes. And moving forward, it's on page 213. Moving forward in time, the sport of bullfighting became prominent on the continent of Europe. In Spain, shortly after the Moors, Black Africans who had conquered Spain for 700 years were finally beaten and chased back into Africa. Of course, by that time, the skin color of the hair of the people in Spain and in Southern Europe had darkened because of the dominant black genetic material which the Africans brought with them. However, the Spaniard response to being conquered by the Africans following the military but not the genetic defeat of the latter was to begin the obsessive ritual of bullfighting. A male person dressed in a suit of lights, which can be decoded as meaning a light or white skinned person, daringly passes and parades in front of a black bull, acting as though he really wants to be gored, and finally, with the help of several others, kill the bull. The fighter, the toreador, then normally takes as souvenir the bull's ear or tail, both of which have been recognized as phallic symbols. Further, the bull is often eaten and the testicles seen as giving power to the diner, are consumed as a delicacy. So again, the white supremacy behavior patterns that exist within the system and culture of white supremacy will always reveal the insidious nature of white supremacy. The act of sacrificing this bull is ritualistically, symbolically representing the sacrificing and killing of a black person, taking his power and using his power to like fuel the white psyche, the white mind, the white body. I can't say the white soul because do they have them? I'm not sure. They do. Collectively, they don't share a collective soul because if they did, I feel bad for I just feel bad for everybody involved. I do have something else to read on 215, but I wanted to give people opportunities to share things they wanted to share.
Thank you. Yeah, for me, reading about bullfighting, I found that very eye-opening in terms of this is initially, it was this chapter that helped me understand more so that white supremacy and white people do understand symbolism enough to want to control these narratives through these games to pass down this knowledge onto their kids. And it kind of hurt me in a sense when I'm thinking about the fact that the whole point of bullfighting is there to basically remind them and like re-ritualize the story of them driving the Moors out of Spain. And of course, by this time, the effects of the Moors being there in terms of civilization, in terms of culture, religion, and in terms of genetic influence had already affected them. But yet they were so happy that they were able to chase them out of their continent, that bullfighting has been created to like always initiate and remind them and teach them to remember that this is the enemy. This you kill nature, or you antagonize nature, and then you kill it when you distracted it. It's like it's the symbolism in what is showing it, like the constant reiteration of this, the constant like the lightheartedness that's around it. People will eat like hot dogs, like how they would eat like around a baseball game, and enjoy this art of this game of killing nature consistently. But when understanding it within the context of that initial victory of driving the Moors out, it just put everything into context for me. It just made me see it more as more ritualistic practices for them as a culture to continuously pass this down and to tell that story and message. Yeah, it was just that was eye-opening for me. I did did anyone else have any thoughts on that? Because I did want to read something from page 214.
Well, just thank you for that. Their inability to conquer nature, and it just pointed out the difference between Black people's relationship with nature, which is one of cohesive and oneness, and their separation from nature. And just to add to that, they never let that bull out of the pen to fight the bullfighter without already having injured it, severely injured it, so that it can't it's disabled. It can't
Wow.
fight back. They could never conquer that bull if they don't cheat. They don't, they have to cheat. They have to, they have to do something to make it less whole. Then they can fight you. Just wanted to add that in.
That's crazy. You mentioned that because that's obviously like the brainwashing they do to Black people. Why does it keep muting?
We were able to hear you. We heard you fine.
I never heard you.
Oh yeah, I accidentally muted myself. That's true. I hadn't equated it to what they do to us. They disable us in the education system, criminal justice system, put us in, we have food deserts here, and then, okay, now we'll compete with you. Cripple you and then compete with you because they know they're inferior. Wow.
Yeah, this actually, it got me thinking about the other like, okay, because look, we're looking at nature and how they're killing of animals in the game. Fighting is something that they can take on board. They're happy to do it because of what it mentally ritualizes and symbolizes for them. But then when it came to was it Mike Vicks and the dogs, he went to prison almost straight away. Like, and dogs is their best friend, and that shows you, well, that's the relationship that we've seen, and that's what Dr.Frances Cress Welsing like reveals to us, like their relationship with dogs, and them being their original mother in terms of being raised by wolves in that statement. And that was so heavily protected in a state that Mike Vicks could go to prison for dog on dogs versus a human antagonizing cattle, the bull constantly. Yeah, no prison sentence there. Like, I don't know if bullfighting is legal in America. If that's something that they'll, I'm sure they'll. Is it legal, or is it Is it buck fighting? What do they do instead of bullfighting? Is it when they ride the rodeo? I'm not sure.
There isn't any legal fighting of anything. Cock fighting, that used to be big. Roosters fighting each other. Dog fighting. Bullfighting is legal in Mexico, not here.
Is that, I wanted to say, is it the rodeo thing where just as you'd come out of the bullfighting ring, but who can stay on it the longest? So for me, that's like symbolism of how long can you control this animal and tame it, because is it a buck? I don't know what to call that animal.
Yeah, that's bronco busting, bull riding, riding, riding the horses, bronco busting and bull busting. And they ride them, and they ride a bucking bull.
Yeah.
And it's abusive. It's abusive.
Yeah.
They're abusing these cattle to make them buck like that.
Yeah, and for me, the symbolism is just being able to control a melanated animal or beast or some form of nature, just another form of having control. And how long can you have control over this animal for?
They even have like Cochran in California, the prison in California. It was exposed a couple years ago how they were having the prisoners fight each other, and of course, black and brown prisoners, white prison guards fighting each other.
Wow. Wow. Okay. Let me just read from page 214. That kind of, yeah, that was interesting. Okay, so where am I? The indigenous inhabitants of America, who are incorrectly referred to as Indians, called the Black soldiers Buffalo Soldiers. The source of this terminology likely stems from the similarities. The hair on their head of the buffalo is the similarities. The hair on the head of the buffalo is very curly, like the helix hair on the heads of Africans, Blacks. Thus, the white cowboys and soldiers were slaughtering the symbols of the Osiris, the Black god, the symbols of the Blacks. I don't know, Adenish, if you have the book, would you like to continue reading the rest of that?
Once the buffalo were removed from the plains, can you hear me?
Yeah, clearly.
Once the
Yeah,
buffalo
see,
were removed from the plains, in addition to the so-called Indians who were also killed, these whites began to breed cattle, cows, or ox-bull steers. For the most part, these cattle have been brown-black in coloration. The superior cattle, the Angus, is mostly all black. Even more interestingly is the fact that whites who raised, bred, and herded brown and black cattle refer to themselves as cowboys, a highly interesting word which doubtably effeminizes these males. The word cow, while it can be used broadly to refer to any domesticated bovine, is used mostly specifically to refer to the mature female cattle. Similarly, the word boy historically has been used by whites in the US to refer to the black male as the means of minimizing and degrading his masculinity. These cowboys nonetheless threw up ropes, lassos, and what is that? Lariat
Mm-hmm.
around the necks of the brown and black cattle, just as the ropes were also placed around the necks of black men in lynches. And they also castrated the cattle producing steer as they castrated black men who were lynched. Cattle raising, cattle herding operated under the ostensible purpose of producing beef for eating. The US has become the major beef-eating nations in the world for its favored meats, being steak and hamburgers. Beef is the preferred meat of the majority of whites in the global white supremacy system. Wow. Beef eaters are supposed to be or to become more powerful or more masculine. Cattle were also used in mainly production of leather for shoes, gloves, clothes, luggage, etc. Don't know if anyone wants to like
Actually,
talk.
I had this part highlighted, so I do want to read this part really quickly. We can talk about it for a bit. Um, Cattle were put to other uses, mainly the production of leather for shoes, gloves, clothes, luggage, etc. The wearing of leather, particularly black leather, is supposed to make one appear maximally masculine and powerful. Leather are used in the production of many articles of clothing for the military. The German military, the Nazis, and the Second World War perhaps exceeded all other white supremacy forces in the utilization of black leather to give the appearance of powerful and might. So I think that's very true and accurate. This when I read this, it reminded me of a scene in Pulp Fiction when the leather gimp suit character is raping Vin Rames. Like you have this white guy in a gimp suit covered in blackness dominating a black man, which is very symbolic and shows that through this black essence of leather, I can dominate this black man. And I don't know if that was intentional, but leather and also leather being used by the Nazis. Nazis were very aware of white supremacy and they tried to expand it worldwide, and they did so by eliminating 6 million Jews, I believe, during the Holocaust. So, and if you could look at photos, you will see a lot of the German commanders and high-ranking officers often wore black leather boots, black leather jackets and coats, and it's just what she's saying is very accurate. And it's interesting that, of course, you have pigmented animals. The cattle were used to make these clothing, so sacrificing, um, you know, certain cattle, certain bovines to get these. I guess you could call it armor for white skin, things that white people can wear to make themselves feel more powerful and more closer to what they want to be, which is black.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, and in terms of like what we read earlier and in regards to the buffalo soldier and its connection with the helix hair, and how I do notice that the bull is the only, like, because there's so many different animals that their fur is very much straight, but like very few of them have like that coil that you could say is very any reminiscent to any African American hair, and like the bull is literally the only one. So it just solidified for me that the killing of the bull, the focusing on these animals is very much strong symbolism from the original Black Osiris, the Black God, or anything that's to do with chem or the black matter. And yeah, it's just it's so embedded in the culture that even if it will take so much shedding, it's going to take more than therapy, I believe, in a lifetime to in a given time for Europeans to really remove this from their system, because look how many thousands of years that this has been continuously brought down in symbolism. And I also thought about the fact that it's in the practices of eating like medium rare. Like it just made more sense to me. Like I always used to think, why would you want to eat food next to raw, next to like basically cannibalism? But then I think about the Angus beef and it being like the prime beef, or the most, like the best beef to eat. And then I think about the fact that they enjoying it medium rare. Like there was one time I was eating dinner with a group of people, and there was two Europeans on the table, and everybody was like saying how they wanted their steaks, and the majority of people said like rare. No, majority of people said medium rare, well done. And then the two white people that were on the table were like, we want it rare or medium rare, and we were just like saying why, and they were like, it wasn't even so much so the explanation they gave, it was like the energy that came with it. It was like, it just feels so good. Like, and I just thought, how can it feel good? Like this, like you just get good energy from it. And I never understood it. I never understood that terminology, that understanding, or how they could get that until understanding the context of the nutrition that a melanated buffalo would have, or a melanated Angus beef would have for them, in the sense of passing that down through the blood, or however energetically is sorry, however energetically they're nourished. It made the fascination with beef, the fascination with it being so predominantly part of our diet, or at least forced to be part of our diet, just makes sense.
Remember the first time I heard a Black person ask for them steak medium rare, I thought she was a vampire. So I get what you mean.
Yeah, I have fallen victim to that because I have in the past ate a lot of meat. So like I've dabbled in having steaks that were like quote unquote medium rare. And it is quite weird, interesting to eat it. I can't say I enjoyed it because I don't remember enjoying it, nor did I do it again afterwards. But there is something like powerful that I used to get from eating a steak. For example, I took my little cousin to Yard House not that long ago when I was in America, and he got like a burger or something, and I got steak. And I think I got the steak medium rare or like medium well done, which I think means the same thing. I don't know. But yeah, I wanted it. I wanted to taste some of the blood for some reason. And I feel like because my programming was in high effect, I came into a lot of money. I wanted to use it. I wanted to like feel like a man, so that's probably why I did that. So yeah, I think this is very, very.
You don't need to question yourself too much. Like when I was in Kenya, I saw the Maasai people, they eat the meat raw as well. So it's not all it's not all a white European thing. It's just the mindset of how they use the meat. Like the Maasai, when they kill an animal, they kill the animal and utilize every part of the animal in a ritualistic way. And even when they die, they put their flesh out so the roaches can eat their flesh. Like it's everything is done for a reason, you know?
Yeah, I understand. I would never want to be eaten by roaches. So that's just me. Yeah, there's nothing. It may be fish features, but I ain't
Circle of life.
Yeah, that's enough for the birds.
Have you ever had mountain oysters?
No,
No, never had mountain oysters, huh?
Nope.
That's testicles. That's bull testicles.
Oh wow! Have you had it before, Jay?
Never. But she talked about it. She talked about it. You know, this she's other level. She's just in another stratosphere when it comes to putting this stuff together. You know, how she's so profoundly connected boxing to eating meat, and like that was the diet of the boxer.
Yeah.
Wow. You know, just steak. You know, they even showed. I've even seen news. You know, old clips of boxers eating steak, chewing and chewing and chewing and chewing and chewing, and then spitting it out. Because it's a myth that you get more protein and more energy and more power. Then if you get a chance, catch this documentary called The Game Changers. It's about these world-class athletes. You've seen it, that have gone. I mean, like Carl, for example, Carl Lewis, who had all the records for the sprints for the 100 and 200 meter.
Yeah.
He went to a plant-based diet, and that's when he was 30 years old, and that's when he started breaking all of the records. The strongest man in the world, in the Guinness Book of World Record, picking up cars and doing all kind of crazy feats of strength. Plant-based diet, no meat, no dairy, no eggs. Plant-based diet, strictly.
Just Mason eggs.
And they even did a test with some college athletes. And they gave them for a sexual experiment to see if they would produce more semen on veggies or on meat. And right across the board, they produce more semen without meat, no meat diet. So after that one, that's when I stopped eating meat. Okay. That's enough motivation for me.
Yeah.
But you know what a juxtaposition though, with the cowboys replacing their slaves with the buffalo and then with the cattle, and then eating their cattle and using the leather in boxing. It's just all connected. And I never was able to connect those dots like that. How deeply inferior, how deep the inferiority complex of that behavior displays. And then, oh, wow, cowboy. Not cowman, not cattleman, cowboys. Oh man, the way she connected that, which in essence, she says right here, the superior cattle, the Angus, you already read this, is mostly all black. Even more interesting is the fact that whites who raised and bred herded brown and black cattle referred to themselves as cow, highly effeminizing these males. And to come to find out too that the milk from cows causes fear. There was a study I read one time. It's theoretical that the fear that the cattle have when before they're slaughtered is transferred into the people that drink the milk. So anyway, that's all I had for that.
That makes so much sense in terms of just, like even the way that they live. The cattle are probably under like high amounts of stress, and we eat these meats and we drink these drinks where these animals, it's stress in their DNA, it's stress in their bloodstream, and we take this on.
What Adanish mentioned about the Maasai, when I was in Kenya, I found I stayed out there with them, not long, because spent a couple days out there, right, in Samburu, and way up there going towards Lake Turkana, and they ate raw. They would eat the liver raw, but they cooked the meat well done. They would stick a straw. They would, a sharp wooden in the neck and suck the blood like a vampire, just perfectly like a vampire, sucking the blood out of that thing. But the difference between the white man's relationship with his cattle and the Maasai's relationship with his cattle is that the cattle are considered equal to the tribe, and in some cases even held in higher esteem. That so they treated and they weren't. Those animals aren't stressed.
They actually have their things where they surround the cattle, right? So the cattle are in the middle of the village, and they all surround it with their housing as well. So they're very highly held.
Yeah, and they're highly prized and protected, highly protected and highly prized and loved. And so the cattle aren't they're not producing stress hormones. And they don't have a high rate of cancer at all. Very, very low rate of cancer. Whereas here they're attributing these cancers to the beef.
Wow.
They don't have it there. It's the chemicals, the hormones, white capitalistic relationship with animals, not just cattle, just I truly believe that is actually at the core of all of the problems that we have in this world, is the relationship that we have normalized, that white supremacy has normalized with animals. Even the COVID virus is a result of some relationship with animals. It started from some kind of relationship that these white. That's another thing. The Asians, we consider them people of color, but they don't consider themselves people of color. They consider themselves white, and as close to white as they can possibly be. And the closer. Hold on, somebody. I don't want anybody to hear me. I rent a room to a Korean law student. I didn't want him to hear me talking about how they actually, have adopted, as have all, as she points out, and as Trey mentioned, every crack and crevice of the planet is infested with white supremacy. So that behavior is white supremacist behavior. That relationship with animals. Africans didn't have that kind of relationship with animals where you live with them. You have them. They went over to Europe and told those people, no, you can't live in the same quarters with your goats. You have to have separate quarters. You'll get sick living like those Moors went over there and educated them about that. But that kind of behavior, just like the hillbillies, you can educate a person, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to change because they know better. That might even make it worse. Like Deliverance, this old movie Deliverance, where there's a Burt Reynolds movie. It's old. The hillbillies, they're lost up in the wilderness, and these hillbillies kidnap these hikers, these hunters or whatever, and rape them. And one of the
I
hillbilly.
remember this movie. I remember this.
Oh, okay. You saw a scene from that where he
The whole
told.
movie. Yep.
Oh, really? Deliverance. Oh, okay. He told him squeal like a pig because he couldn't get a nut, so he wanted him to squeal like a pig so he can get a nut. I know it might be an appropriate conversation with the ladies here, but that you know, I just emphasize that because their relationship with animals is different than the relationship that Black people have with animals. They feel more connected to animals, you know, whereas we see them for what they are. We have relationships with them, but as part of nature and our relationship, appropriate relationship with animals, as opposed to inappropriate relationships with animals. And they have some inappropriate relationships with animals, you know, chickens, anything, chickens, goats, pigs. They have sex with those things. There's even a name for it. People
Bestiality.
that like us, huh? Bestiality, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would even go as far as saying that bestiality is part of the European Utamawazo, and it is part of the Utamorojo as well. I've seen so many, not so many, but I remember when I was probably 14, and I moved to Condo, and the place I was living had a computer in the basement. And I remember I got on the computer and I was going through this guy's files, and a video popped up, and there's a video of like a white woman like having sex with a horse, and it's like, and I was like,
Well,
and I was my first time being exposed to bestiality, and I've been to Amsterdam and the Netherlands, and like you could find a donkey show if you want to. You can find like these types of shows where like the performance is engaging in bestiality, and people flock to these shows, and people still do it. I'm not sure if it's happening right now, but I know when I was in Amsterdam, um, it was very obvious that you can find anything you want to do in Amsterdam. Um, on page 2, I want to read something that I think is interesting. Um,
What page?
so page 216. Actually, yeah, I want to read the first paragraph and then half of the um, second paragraph, and I would love for someone else to finish the rest. On page 216. Returning to the boxing arena, the symbolic contest of the genetic power of the testicles is staged in the ring. It is referred to as a ring because it's symbolic of the female vaginal orifices. The bout also takes place on canvas, typically considered white in color. In the recent Tony Holmes fight, the canvas was colored red, white, and blue. This is significant because these three colors, red, white, and blue, are the most important symbolic colors in the white supremacy system and culture, as manifested by the colors of the flags of the majority of the white nations, like the white nation states. Now, whoever wants to pick up on the flag on the pole, who wants to read that part?
The flag on the pole symbolizes the lateral view of the phallus and the testicles, colored cloth representing the testicles, a red, a white, and blue cloth symbolizes genetic material that produces white skin, through which can be seen red areotal, I can't pronounce that word, areoles and blue veins, hence the expression blue bloods, a phrase which means that the skin is white or pale enough for the blue veins to show through. Blue veins and areoles typically are not visible through melanin pigmented skins. Does anyone else want to continue?
Additionally, in Rocky, Stallone wears red, white, and blue trunks that are designed to symbolize the American flag. The trunks cover the genitals, and in this instance, genitals that produce white skin through red areoles and blue veins can be seen. Finally, in regards to the boxing match, the gloves fits typically are covered with black, brown, and other colored leather, as opposed to white leather. This fact reveals that at the deep levels of the white individual collective psyche, power is thought to be associated with color, skin color, as opposed to colorless white skin. The final analysis, it does not matter which boxer, white or non-white, is the winner at the surface level. The color of the gloves of the winner are always non-white. And the white fighter who dons colored gloves simply identifies himself with the power and color of the ball of Osiris, which is black, not white. Thus, the color is always a winner at the deeper level of the psyche, just as in reality, black skin color is always genetically dominant to white. Wow. Additionally, support for my thesis found an article describes fisting as a caring sexual practice in the psychiatric news in the American Psychiatric Association. The article reports on the work of Thomas Lowry, MD Chief in the Psychiatric Department at the Casa Primary Medical Center.
Kazi, yeah, thank you so much for reading that. So yeah, I wanted to go back to basically like what these gloves symbolize. Finally, in regards to the boxing match, the gloves flips typically are covered with black, brown, or other colored leather as opposed to white. To me, that is symbolically the white psyche saying at the root of this hand is going to be a blackness. So no matter who wins, black is going to be the winning nature, the winning force, because they know that black is the superior gene. They know that black is what you should ascend to, and they know that they have inferior genes. So even when white people wear black gloves, they're symbolically saying, "Yep, I'm powerful. I'm protecting my hand in this magical aura of melanin, and it's going to help me win." And they believe that. They totally believe that. And the last thing that I had marked down to read was on page 218. The wearing of leather and their occupation with the use of leather objects, including boxing gloves, is the subconscious and unconscious return through symbolism to the white collective's perception of the dominant genetic power of the black male. Therefore, men who consciously or unconsciously sense themselves as deficient in male substance to act out symbolically and to don or internalize symbols representative of the highest standard of male power. Blackness is logically correct, if not logically necessary. So that to me hammers in this whole essay that she has written um, about the symbolism of boxing and leather. Like the blacker the better, this leather wrapped around your skin makes you more powerful. The black gloves wrapped around your skin makes you more powerful. Subconsciously or consciously, whites are really trying to be dominant and be powerful and be as strong as black men are and be strong as black women are. They're doing that by adapting these traits that associate things that are black with power. Mike, do you have anything else you want to remark?
Yeah, what you just said was beautifully explained, and only to add to that, the symbolism of leather being authoritative power, it being used in the military, like Dr. Frances Cress Welsing describes military boots. Just also it came into mind like poachers wearing the tooth of animals. What came into mind, people wearing leather, snakeskin, the very highly rich and elite wearing fur and just constantly making sure that they're dominant, they're wearing nature or have it dominant over them. Like I can't believe that I was convinced into growing up and thinking that we need to wear leather and fur to stay warm, and this is the reason why. Like I literally took it on board. Like the reasons why we wear these is because they are warm. But in what world does it make sense to take someone else's skin and put it on your skin? Only in a European mindset. So so this in the context of reading this has really allowed me to see where the power plays of wearing nature on you. The significance of wearing nature on your body, how that adds value, and it's a showcase of power and strength to the European mindset. Also, yes, I'm not going to read it out because, but just we had got there. Denisha just about got to that part where we were talking about where Dr. Frances Cress Welsing talks about fisting and how for me when I was reading this chapter, I took on board everything that was written about the buffalo, and when it came to like the boxing, it took me a while to like really embrace and take that in. But after like she said, this article below will support my thesis. Yes, it did. It made so much sense that the fact that the fisting is seen as a testicle at that point, and it's a fight between testicles at that point. Yeah, that part of that explanation really helped me understand its relationship in boxing.
You have a bit of an echo when you're talking. I don't know if it's just me that's hearing it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Adenisha, I missed that. Could you please repeat it?
It's fine. It's the sound. I think it's just my internet. It just keeps cutting out.
Okay.
Brachiopractic eroticism. Brachiopractic eroticism on page 17. Brachiopractic eroticism, to describe the practice known as fisting.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not, You see that excerpt there on 217?
Yeah. Why not? Want to read the context for our listeners?
Okay. The ultimate closeness and the ecstatic and total trust are just two of the phrases used by participants to describe their feelings during a sexual practice that, although bizarre and seemingly unlikely, is apparently engaged in by a sizable number of persons. This practice consists of one person inserting his or her hand and forearm into the rectum of another. In the first phase of their study, Lowry distributed questionnaires at leather bars, homosexual conventions, specialty nightclubs, bookstores, and doctors' consulting rooms. From these data, the authors estimate that nationwide roughly 50,000 persons have incorporated fisting into their sexual repertoires. So she's just, I don't want to read it all, but skilled laborers and unskilled laborers, 96% stated that they were exclusively or predominantly homosexual. So what I wanted to take from that was what she wrote about it, the deep level of symbolism involved in that. Oh man, oh God, this is sick. Where I just all I can do is read it. I get it. It's wait a minute. Where So the fist is symbolic of the testicles. And the highly symbolic behavioral preoccupation with the internalization at one or the other end of the gastrointestinal tract of male substance in the form of semen. Lauren Williams revealed that there is an increasing number of persons, the vast majority of whom are exclusively or predominantly homosexual, who is in response to a deep sense of male substance deficiency are motivated to have the fist forearm of another inserted into, into the gastrointestinal tract of another human being. And that really hammered home for me the deep desperation. I mean, for her to connect that like that to boxing, leather, and sex is nothing short of genius, in that you can't really deny it. You know, it's a theory, but you can't really deny it. You know, their desperation attempt to somehow, I don't know if I understand this or not, gain power. They completely submit themselves to being fisted and abused like that.
Yeah. To me, it's just the act of having more male essence inside you. It could be interpreted an infinite amount of ways because of unified field theory. But yeah, what she's saying is correct. It's like the same reason why people put brown cigars in their mouth and shit. It's that male. It's the feeling of male inadequacy. Like, how can you compensate? Sexual depravity, I guess, is what you would call it. But fisting, it's just another act that like it gives people who classify themselves as white, it gives them the feeling of like being complete, you know, like being altered. It's a very fascinating ordeal that we have here. It's very convoluted. It's weird. It's scary. It's dehumanizing in a way. But hey, they get pleasure from it, and it's known, so they must like it. It makes them feel good. Are you guys ready to move on to closing comments? Yeah.
Yeah, we can.
So my closing comments. Oh man, boxing. So I remember being a kid and like, when I say kid, I mean like 9, 7 years old, whatever, and then catching like the pay-per-view trailers, Oscar De La Hoya versus somebody, or like someone versus someone, and like if the person was black versus white, I remember being so eager to find out, oh my God, who won? Because as a black child, not really understanding sports, not really being inclined to sports, I was drawn to boxing because it's two people fighting. When you're fighting, whoever wins is the more powerful one. And I thought if the black person won, that meant that the black race was the better fighter of races. And I did that with everything else. If I saw like a black person in a movie who was getting chased by a white person, he got caught, I'm like, oh man, black people must be slow compared to white people. So like that kind of symbolism I took on as a kid definitely had an effect on me. And I do feel like everyone who watches boxing is subconsciously waiting to see which genes will reign supreme, meaning what fighter will win. You know, is it going to be Eager? It's going to be McGregory, the Irish dude, or is it going to be Floyd Mayweather? You know, after the quick comments, I do want to show y'all some comedy stuff so we can laugh at something funny together. Um, but yeah, I'll pass it on to who wants to go next, who wants to share next.
I used to growing up, you just brought something to mind, Trey. It didn't matter who it was. It could have been the most. It could have been Muhammad Ali fighting Jerry Corey, biggest black and white fight in the history of boxing. But when you get up to the TV and you're sitting there and you're looking, you say, I got the black guy. I don't care who it is. I don't care what the sport is. We're going with the black team. We're going with the black guy. Didn't matter. It's automatic. In boxing in particular, other sports there were variables. But in boxing in particular, even up to this day, you got to go for the black guy. You know? And you know it's more likely that he's going to win. You know? And they, you know, just last thought I had was that after this book and after these ideas surfaced, they started wearing red gloves. They change. Sometimes, not all the time.
What do you think the red gloves symbolize?
Blood. Bloodshed. Red always symbolizes bloodshed, right? I don't know. That was deep, man. I leave this group having mixed feelings. You know, liberated and a little more secure, but kind of regretful that I just now learning this stuff and get to apply it. You know, it's valuable, extremely valuable information. I'm very grateful that you guys are doing this.
You brought a lot of wisdom with you, though. You seem like you've actually like walked the path and like learnt things as you went along.
Oh, thank you.
Ben, you're muted.
Thank you.
Mary, do you want
Yes, of course. As soon as you're muted. Thank you. Yeah, to conclude, chapter 17 for me, very, very, very detailed information. I learned so much about, this is my second time reading this, but taking today's information, and when it comes to the Buffalo Soldier and when it comes to like really unlocking the relationship between bullfighting and white supremacy and our relationship with it, and I truly understood it made me understand chapter 16 way more in terms of the symbolism of passing down information onto their kin through something as simple as going to a game. Like it seemed like a game, but literally teaching them their game of life. to basically to be predicated upon onto our lives. And in understanding this and trying to break this, we're naturally doing it. Majority of us have cut out meat from our lives, so that like in the earlier chapter, Dr. Frances Cress Welsing says the truth always wants to be revealed. In doing what we're doing now, more truths are going to be able to unfold. And one thing I love about our group is the different opinions that all of us bring and the different levels of experiences that we're all bringing to each other. We're learning, for me, I'm learning at such a fast rate just by hearing everyone else's taking from this. Adonis, you haven't read it today, but you brought some knowledge to me about the Maasai that I wouldn't have known in terms of the relationship with animals and that ritualistic way of eating meat and killing the animal. So like what I would learn with this alone, I'm coming away with more solidified and more able to like apply it as a practical measure into life. And now one of my thoughts in terms of, I know it's supposed to be closing, but yeah, I can close with this. Now one of my thoughts is in terms of encouraging other people to disassociate beef eating with masculinity, with power, with being a man, with protein eating, and thinking of new ways to do that. So I only have Dr. Frances Cress Welsing for laying it down with this level of information and analysis and decoding to thank for that, and everybody else's analysis here. So yeah, I'm really grateful for our group and breaking down an analysis. So thank you to everyone, and yeah, thank you for listening.
Anyone else have anything to share before I close?
I just wanted to thank everyone for breaking down like the chapter on melanin and alchemy. Basically, like that was very enlightening, and even the aspect of like money, like it's like things are upside down, like or back to front the way that we think because of the society that we've been raised in. It's crazy. There was something Benjamin said where it was saying like loving things and using people, like that really makes sense to me. Like that's what we do in a society rather than using things and loving people. And I even find myself doing that, like loving things and using people on the without even consciously thinking about it.
Okay, thanks everyone for discussing chapter 17, the symbolism of boxing and leather. It's great. And stop this recording.